All right, everybody. It's JJ Conway, and I'm here with Brother Philip Wiggins. And I'm super excited to be here with you all today. Today, we are wearing our Robert Thomas Cooper shirts, Greatness Over Adversity and Trauma. I'm super excited for us to talk about this book. Me and my son have been meaning to talk about this book, and he's got several others. I think spring break of earlier this year. So we're a little bit behind on our book reviews, but I tell you what, it's worth the wait. This book is called A Young Man's Cry, and you can, let me put the slide back up. You can get a copy. You can get your own copy at jjclink.com/cry. That's jjclink.com/cry. And then I'm also going to drop that into the chat, and I'm going to drop where you can learn more about what Robert is doing to support young men becoming men. I'm going to put those in the chat, blah, blah, blah. I'm putting those in the chat. So we've got the book, and then we've got the website. Okay. And so what we're going to be doing today is Philip and I are going to be talking about this book, and I found it to be very, very eye-opening. Let's take a look at the quote that I pulled from the introduction. I mean, just the first page. Actually, before I go into that, just the first page, when he talks about my mom was strict, I was like, oh yeah. But then he starts going into some of the pitfalls and some of the areas where his mom, being that strong, independent, strict woman, caused some issues. Oh, I was convicted throughout the entire book, y'all. And so when we think about the introduction, Philip, what stood out to you about this book? What did you think you were about to read?
Well, originally I wasn't too interested in the book, and then I read the introduction and I was like, oh wow, I resonate with this guy a little bit because he grew up without having a father, and I didn't. I grew up a little bit not having my father for my younger years. Now I have an amazing dad.
Yeah.
And I had a very strict mother.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, I really
You not had, you have.
I still have. Still have. Although I kind of deserve it sometimes. But and some of the other things, like the fact that he was like a really studious student in his elementary years and middle school years.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was very good in school in my elementary years and my middle school years, and then high school hit, and a lot of different things came, and I started to decline a little bit. I'm not bad. I'm not failing anything. Pre-cal and physics, I'm still, that's way too easy. Like obviously on me.
Too easy, like in straight A's, too easy.
Yeah. So
in calc and physics.
I mean, my test grades proof of that. But either way,
we're just gonna roll on. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
He started to have a decline in high school and just started to see a slip away. And I was interested to see how he managed through all of that, because I need to take some of the advice in this book.
Okay. Well, it's hard to take advice, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit later. But real quick, I'm going to pop up the introduction and a quote that I pulled from the introduction. Now, look, if you've got a comment or a question for me or Philip, please, please, please drop it in the comments. Drop it in the comments, and we will pull it up on the screen. If you want your Facebook or YouTube picture to show up, make sure you give StreamYard your permissions on the platforms that need that, because we're broadcasting to a bunch of platforms right now. But on the platforms that need that, it'll show up saying, please give StreamYard your permission, okay? And that way, when we pull up your comment, it'll actually show your picture along with the comment, okay? Sort of like this. Here, I'll show you an example. There's me putting the link to where you can get the book, as well as where you can support Robert. And see how it shows my picture? It's because I gave StreamYard my permissions. All right. So we want you all to participate in this discussion today and ask questions about the book. But more importantly, we really want you to support Robert and what he's doing to help young men become men. All right. So first chapter, well, actually the introduction, I thought this was interesting because to me, expression and bitterness didn't really seem to go hand in hand. But one of the quotes that I pulled out was that I became bitter because I had nobody to express my frustration and concerns with. And so, Philip, what did you think about that?
Well, I know personally, I have struggled with that before. There's a lot of things that have made me frustrated, especially throughout high school,
Hmm.
that I just don't think I can talk to anybody about and just keep bottled up. And even though my mom says every time, I know she says all the time that I can come talk to her, it's just sometimes you don't think you can talk to your parents about some stuff that it's just you start to get bitter and just have resentment and anger
Mm.
or revenge for things.
Uh-huh. Well, let's have some real talk. What are the top two things that keep you from telling your mom stuff? Like pretend I'm not your mom. Pretend I'm just interviewing you.
Well, I know you definitely don't. This is not something you really. This is something you've told me not to get involved with countless times. It's probably one of the reasons why I don't ever want to talk with you about it. It's relationships.
Girls.
Because, yeah,
Yeah.
I know you've always told me never not to, or not never, but to try not to get into doing all that stuff until college or about,
Well, I've never said you couldn't have friends or get to know
yeah,
girls. I've just said no
yeah.
touching them.
Well, you also not really wanted me to have girlfriends, but
Nope.
that's another reason why anytime something happens like that, I don't want to ever come talk to you because I know I feel like it's gonna just be an "I told you so" type thing.
Oh, wait. I want y'all to hear what I heard. I heard that sometimes mom's right. That's what I heard. Okay. Yeah, well, I definitely need to work on that because one of the jobs as a parent is to be that person that you can come to, be that person you can ask these questions of so that you're not getting your answers from people who are your same age and don't have the life experience. Like you were born when I was 30 years old. And so I have 30 years of life experience that you haven't lived yet. And even though technology is different, it's important that you're able to come to me. And I think this book definitely helps. So if you're a parent and you feel like your teenager isn't coming to you, I highly recommend that you get a copy of Robert's book because it outlines a lot of the things that we don't even realize we're doing that hinder our kids from communicating with us. All right. And so as I bring up the next slide, if you have a comment or a question for me or Philip, make sure that you drop it in the chat so we could address it. Okay. The next chapter, well, the first chapter actually is It Takes a Village. And so I pulled out, oops, I pulled out this quote because as a parent, a lot of times I'm thinking that if I do all this big and beyond over and above thing, that's what's going to cause my kid to really feel close to me or open up to me or feel well loved. And in this quote, what I found in this chapter is sometimes it's the basic things. It's the watching a show with them, it's playing catch with them, it's doing the things that they want to do and maybe not always making them do the things you want to do. Although we will have sappy movies with mom sometime during this Christmas break, I'm just saying. But a lot of times it's important as parents for us to be open for somebody else to tell us, hey, here's a way you could be doing this parent thing a little bit better. And what did you think about this chapter? It Takes a Village, number one.
Well, another thing I read up in the chapter was when it was talking about like just finding out like what your kids or your sons or son or multiple sons can be dealing with because
Mm-hmm.
there's so many things that happen. Like, I mean, you would think they're teenagers, like, I mean, what really happens in their life, but you'd be surprised. They're like emotional status of lots of teenagers is just so high
Mm-hmm.
throughout America and just like the world in these current days. It's like you wouldn't think like that they would be having so much stuff to deal with, but there's a
Well,
lot to
let's
deal
talk
with.
about that because what are some of the things that you have to deal with?
Well, me That's another thing.
I see how I slid that in there.
Yeah, I know. And there are some things that are easier to talk about with dads than they are to talk about with moms.
Yeah.
Namely relationships.
Yeah, but you
Can I
know
tell
what
you that?
though? You know what though? Moms are the best people to help you understand what a girl is thinking. Just like dads are the best people to help a young lady understand what a guy is thinking. Because I have found that what I'm thinking about a situation is not what the guy is thinking about the situation. And I know we have a very I know we have a more tolerant and gender fluid kind of we have a more gender fluid kind of world right now, right? But one of the things that I'm noticing is that one of the things that I'm noticing is that there are differences of interpretations. And if you can't come to your mom, then you're going to get all your information about girls from your teenage guy friends or your teenage girlfriends. And the teenage girl friends, they don't know a whole lot about being a woman and what a woman needs as you get older because they haven't been there yet and they just got a bunch of hormones. I know because I was one, right? And the guy friends, they're getting their information from who knows where, and it's usually not accurate. Okay, so what are some things that you all deal with?
Well, definitely the internet is one big thing. Now, I'm not going to say that phones need to be taken away all the time because I don't want to be that guy.
I can't say that, huh? You
I'm not
can't
gonna be.
say
I'm
that?
not.
Oh,
I
you're not
can't
going to
say that.
say that. You're not
I'm
going
not
to
gonna be
say
able to
that.
say
Okay.
that
Okay.
because I mean, there's a lot of things we do with phones, but nowadays that like are it's just integrated in our lifestyles nowadays. But the internet, TV, there's social media, all this stuff, and just like kids are like looking at all these things
Mm-hmm.
and it's like taking them away from like their family instead of
Ah,
finding role
yeah.
models in
Yeah.
your family like your mom or your dad or something like that. They're looking to these people who are on the internet and those are becoming their role models and that's who they're basing themselves off of as those and should be truthful those fake personalities that are being
Yeah.
portrayed out
Yeah.
on social media and
And
stuff
a
like
lot of
that.
fakery on social media because what is social media designed for?
It's designed for like people to feel good about themselves, like everything's so perfect and things like that, you know.
Really? Because I thought it was designed about money
That well, yeah,
and influence and power.
right. And if you portray that everything in their life is perfect and people want to be like you, they're gonna follow you and you're gonna make more money like
Yeah,
that.
because what's the number one way to make money off people? Every sales training you ever go to is going to tell you antagonize the problem.
Yep.
Make people feel bad about themselves, and what you're offering is what they need to feel better about themselves.
Mhm.
All right. All right. So now let's go to the next chapter. And again, if you have a thought along these lines, if you have a question, if you have a comment, then I would love, love, love for you to drop it in. Now, I'm not going to comment first on this one. I want you to comment first on this one because, I got a mouthful to say about this one. Want me to put it back up? Here,
Sure.
let me put it back up. There we go. Look at that. What? Now, I'm sure there were other things. It was a pretty meaty chapter. There may have been other things you pulled out of that chapter, but this is what I pulled out of that chapter. So, what did you pull out of this chapter?
Well, what I pulled out of this chapter, namely, was the way young men talk about the things that they're dealing with.
Mm.
Because those things, especially when they're talking to their moms, that can come out as hurtful or disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and like, it, we don't mean to come out as disrespectful or rude or anything like that. It's just, we don't know how to word it in a way that makes it seem like to get what we're really dealing with across in a respectful manner because it's just there's so much of it that it just comes out.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's just one
So one of the things that you're seeing is that you've got to learn some skills, and he equips you with some skills later in the book, right? Like, we're not giving away the whole book, right? You need to go out and get the book, but there's some equipping that happens in this book, right?
Yes.
Okay, some equipping that happens in this book. Well, I'll tell you what, when I read that, I was like, oh, this man knows my mother's heart, because one of the problems that I have is feeling like all my girlfriends are pushing their kids so hard. All my girlfriends are getting, you know, all these hundreds of thousands of dollars of scholarships for their kids, and their kids are doing these great things. And I've got the child who is a young man, not a child anymore. I got to stop saying that. But I've got the one who's like football, trumpet, and video games, and I'm good. And and so I have really, when I read this, it really resonated with me, because for me it was like all my hard work, like I was taking it real personal that he didn't seem to be more ambitious, because I worked so hard to give him a better life. I sacrificed so much to send him to a private school when Louisiana wouldn't test him for honors, even though he was one of 6 kids in the whole school to have straight A's. You know what I mean? Like I did all these things, and it was just like it was for nothing. And then I thought, well, man, if it's for nothing, I could just go play around, do it whatever I want to do, spend my money. Like, for the first time in my life, I understood why so many people in the previous generation have felt like instead of leaving their wealth to their children, they're just going to spend it all up. I never understood that before. And so when you hear me say that in context of what he talks about in this book, what do you think about that? How do you respond to that? How do you respond to moms out there who feel like your mom did, that it's really worth it? Or is it not worth it? Is it not worth it? Because if it's not, you can tell me, like you told me, stop sending you to all those science camps.
Well, I think especially in my generation, not everybody has their mind made up. There's lots of things that you would be like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And I know I'm kind of like that. It's hard to decide what path you really want to focus on. Like, I mean, I've said it since I was young, that I would like to be an engineer, mechanical engineer.
You've said you wanted to design race cars, engines. Yeah.
That's mechanical engineering, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of
it's
part
in
of the
there.
same thing.
It's in there. Yep.
Like it's like, it's weird. We're a weird generation.
A weird generation. Explain. Come on, we need this.
Because, like, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to word it. Like I said earlier, it's
hard to word it without appearing disrespectful.
Yeah.
All right, tell you what. Say it in the way that it comes to you, and I'll tell you if there's a more respectful way to put it. How's that?
I can't really say it.
You get smacked? I mean, no, I didn't just say that.
Well, that comes into the next principle that I was literally about. That's going to be next up.
Okay. Well, all right. So, but seriously though, like what is that about this generation? Because every generation has their thing. Every generation has their thing, and I can keep talking if you want me to.
I don't really want to say it, because if I say it, then like, well, I'm gonna say it. Obviously, I'm gonna say it in like the next 10 seconds. I'm just gonna explain, because if I say this, then it's gonna be a wake up call to a bunch of people.
Oh,
that you probably should tone it down, gain more control of your kids and what they're doing. I don't want to say it, but I mean, it has to be said.
Well, how does somebody get control of a 17-year-old? Other than cutting off their phone, which I will do in a heartbeat.
Exactly. Like, it's that simple. You want them to take away the things that they consider super precious to them, or like, prove that you will actually do what you say you're going to do. Because a lot of these kids, they're like, well, you're not going to actually do it, so why do I have to listen to you? Because you're not going to do it. That's what a lot of kids in this generation are like to their parents.
But how does that translate to having no future ambition or goals, though?
Because they spend all their time just playing video games and talking to girls or talking to guys, not spending time on Snapchat, social, TikTok, all this stuff. They're not even looking forward. They're not really care. They think that their parents are going to take care of them for the rest of their lives. That's how they act.
So what you're saying is, my mom was right when she told me all through high school, 18 and out the door. No,
I don't think
no,
that's I don't think that's a good mindset to have. But like
No, that sends the wrong signal. As a child who received that, that totally sends the wrong signal.
right.
Look, somebody's saying, "Come on now, Philip, lay it on us. Give us the wake up call."
They're just so spoiled. Like I've gone to so many schools.
This is your 8th school.
This is my 8th school,
Mm-hmm.
and this is like the most. Well, not the most.
Well, careful what you say.
Because
yeah, don't even. Yep. I know which school you're talking about. And
it.
actually, your 2nd grade school was just as entitled as the school you were about to say. Yeah, that was where I was so excited to get you in there because all the diplomats kids. So I was stationed in the DC area. This is where all the diplomats kids and all the muckety muck people's kids went to, who went to a public school rather than a private school. And I was so excited to get him into that school. But I found out real quick we did not fit in.
Funny things, I didn't even know the teachers. I never knew the teacher's name the entire year.
but there is an entitlement, and I think some of that comes from having parents who had little, or who've just grown up with their parents doing for them, or like in my case, we didn't have that, and so it's a natural extension to want to do and give to you all everything. Mm-hmm. All right, but at some point, you all have to stand up on your own 2 feet, and learn how to live life on your own and be your own person.
And I just think that lots of teenagers just aren't prepared for that whenever they have to stand on their own 2 feet, because all they're doing is just they're staying in their room. Okay, whenever I'm in my room, I'm not just on my phone going through Snapchat. I'm actually doing stuff. But
Snapchat and Insta.
I don't even use Instagram that much. If I was using Instagram, I'd have over 1,000 followers. Come on now. But
you follow him at Wiggy D, Wiggy_D.
But I'm just saying, most of these kids are just in their room with the lights off all day. And like this entire Christmas break, I can name at least 50 kids who are going to be just sitting in the room, like with the lights off the entirety of this 2 weeks for Christmas break. They're not going to do anything. They can do stuff if they want to, but their parents aren't going to force them to do anything, get out the house or do something. Like over the years, you've had me do a bunch of books and stuff like that, read books, get ready. I'm getting ready to go to college, go and get a career, do all this stuff. And these parents aren't like doing that for their kids, and it's just
well, to their defense, I think a lot of them don't think they really need to, because we were more grown as kids than our kids are now.
Oh yeah.
And when I was a kid, we traipsed all over Germany, and as long as we were back home on time, my parents didn't care where we were, they didn't worry about us. We knew how to take the trains. We knew how to go all over the place. Like, we knew how to take care of ourselves, even at that young age. I went to school with people who lived down, one guy lived down in Florida Keys, and he, at 16, would take his boat, his wind boat, it's a sailboat, not even a powered boat, and go out to one of the surrounding islands, and be out there all day and come back. And that's something we just wouldn't allow a 16-year-old to do today. We'd hardly let them out of our sight. So the world is different, and it's important for us as kids, as parents, to give our kids that avenue that they can tell us this stuff. So maybe not live on Facebook, but give some things. But that's a pretty strong statement that parents need to do more, because that's what I'm hearing.
Well, it's not do more, it's, I don't want to say that because that sounds weird, but be in more control, like, of what they're doing and how they're spending their time.
Is it more control, or is it more involvement?
And that's it. Yeah, that's the word.
Because I know you are like your mother. You do not like people to control you.
It wasn't the word I was looking for. I said it wasn't the word. I just didn't. I couldn't think of another word. Involvement.
To be more involved.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this has been excellent. So again, if you have any questions or comments at all for Brother Philip or myself, or if you have an opinion on this, we would love to get your perspective. For those of you who are just joining us, or you're watching it after the fact on YouTube or Facebook, LinkedIn, or any of our other Facebook channels that we're broadcasting to, or if you're listening later as part of the Building Wealth Together podcast, we are reviewing Robert Cooper's book, a young man's cry. And we're having a very real conversation about life based on the principles in this book. The next principle we're going to talk about is in chapter number 3, principle number 3, a cry or the cry. And so this is a tough one for me because I've always been a person that if I want something, I ask for it or I go for it. And in fact, it's almost to the point where I have had to learn to draw back because I ask for too much or I act like I deserve too much or I put myself in places where I'm asking for what people just don't have to give. And so for me this was a real hard read. So what did you take away from principle number 3?
Well, I did say earlier when you were talking about the whole slapping thing, when you were slapping, well,
Yeah.
this chapter talks about how men, we there's a lot, whenever we have pain, people tend to ignore it
Mhm.
because we're men, and people think, well, you're a man, so you can have tough love or something, like they believe in this concept of
Yeah.
tough love.
Mhm.
Now that might work for some people, but that doesn't work for everybody.
Mhm.
There's a lot of men, and especially in today's age, there's a lot of men who just, that type of tough love could send them into depression or make them think of doing things that you don't want to ever think about in this day and age. It's just, times have really changed since you were a kid.
And
It's
tell me,
different.
how have times changed since I was a kid?
Responsibilities.
Like what?
Well,
Because I used to come home from school and clean the whole house top to bottom.
exactly.
Technically, my sister and brother were supposed to do more, but they didn't. And I didn't want us to get in trouble. And they knew it.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
So I should make you come home and clean the house top to bottom.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying lots of responsibilities. Like the way kids are, they barely do any chores. Like they find the fact that I have to do chores to be like bad. Like
Really?
I don't understand it because they think it's a bad thing. Like to have a daily chore or to have a weekly chore or something like that is not good. You should. That's like a punishment apparently. It's just
It's not part of, it's not just part of being a family.
it's just part of being a family. And if you get in trouble or something like that, well, I mean, they don't really have to. They still don't have to. Even if they get in trouble big time, like they lose their phone for like 2 days, and it's like, and then after that, it's like, whatever.
Mm.
Like, no, you should take responsibility for that. Own up to it. Be honest. You messed up. So take a couple weeks. Take a couple months. Not saying I want a couple months. Not saying I would want a couple months, but I'm just saying you gotta do the things, because like if your parents are gonna tell you to do something, don't whine and cry about it. You messed up.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the workforce because there's a lot of innovation that your generation brings to the table.
Mm-hmm.
But without responsibility and without being able to stand on their own feet, it's going to be really difficult to translate that into the future life that they want.
Right.
And so in this one, it's really, what's really struck me is about being able to listen and understand that even though there's this tough guy persona, that a lot of times that tough guy persona is really a cry for help. And that's another thing. Now I want to pull up this comment real quick because this was related to the last chapter, but I think it's important with this chapter as well about being more intentional about preparing young people. And yes, I think we're talking about being more intentional about preparing young people to be part of the world, which is why I'm open to talking to you about girls, because I realize I would rather you get your information about girls from your mama than from anybody else. I know a lot about being a girl. I know a lot about what girls think. I know about a lot about the games their moms play when they're trying to entrap a young man. Whew. So this is it's very important to have that positive role model. But how does somebody break through that tough guy exterior? Because you're big as saying, well, I don't need any help.
Yeah, that's kind of how I act. I don't really like to ask from too much help from people. I like to be able to just get through things myself.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you something that I found very interesting?
Mhm.
As I'm studying with my dissertation and stuff, I have found a very curious distinction that a lot of lower income people have this, I'm going to do it all myself. I'm the tough guy. I never need anybody. Whereas very high income people, they are trained early in life that you need a network and you need to build relationships with people, and that these are the relationships that are going to take you further. Whereas people in poverty tend to just relationships with whoever who's there, whoever's in the same situation. People who are more successful tend to develop an intentional network of people that they can lean on when they need help. And in fact, the higher up you go, the more likely the people that I've observed, and agree, and again, my it's my one experience, it's one person's experience, right? It may not matter to everybody, but what I've observed is that the higher up the person goes, the more they lean on others and the less they themselves are holding in or responsible, not necessarily with emotions, but as far as asking for help in an area that they're not good at. Like the highest earning people that I know that mentor me, in a minute, they'll be like, who's better at this than I am? Let me get them on my team. Let me get them on my side. Let me get them to take care of this for me. Let me get them to educate me. Let me take them out to lunch and ask them how to do this. And so I find it very interesting where you have this dichotomy of, oh, I'm going to build a network, whereas at the bottom, it's I'm going to do it all myself. And with everybody doing it all themselves, they get so worn out, they never have the energy to rise above. That's not in the book. That's just me talking. But I think the book is kind of pointing to some of these issues. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to principle number 4. And again, if you have any ideas, comments, or questions, go ahead and drop them in. In fact, maybe I should just check real quick and make sure there's no new comment that popped in. Okay, there we go. So we're going to go to principle number 4, which is ask yourself how they can be reached through you. Now, here's what this question doesn't say. And this is what I was challenged in this chapter, because when I first read that question, my first thought was, okay, how can young people be reached? And I started to think about all these different ways that young people can be reached. And then it was like, wait a second, these are different ways that I want to give. These aren't necessarily ways that they can receive through me. And as Philip has alluded to, as we were discussing the book earlier, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of behaviors, there are a lot of mechanisms, there are a lot of mannerisms that mom has that really kind of shuts down anybody's intention of sharing anything with her. So what do you think about this chapter? What do you think about this chapter?
Well, what I gained from this chat, well, not gain. Well, yeah, I did gain a lot actually. Gain a lot of knowledge, Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
All right. Anyway, the whole thing about being asking yourself how young men can be reached through you, because there's a lot of ways to talk to young men or to reach out to them. You can do it positively, and then you can also do it negatively. And while most people most men have that whole tough guy act, lots of negativity, not all.
Yeah.
Because some negativity is negative, reaching out to you negatively is required. But most required.
That's what you said.
I said required. Well, most of the time, whenever you reach out to someone or attack someone negatively, just pushes them farther away. You're not going to be able to reach them. And it's just, you gotta, find what ways, get to know them, find what ways work for them to be able to reach to them, get them to open up to you.
Okay.
It's tough because we're not difficult. We're not confusing.
Mm-hmm.
We're just stubborn. We're stubborn.
Oh.
See, girls are the confusing and the
Oh, girls are
yeah.
confusing and
Yeah.
guys are stubborn. You
We're-
heard it first here from Philip Wiggins.
We're simple. We're simple.
Oh,
but we're
really?
stubborn.
Simple but stubborn.
Yeah,
That's a
so
book title right there.
it's hard to reach those. But
Wait. Let's see. If guys are simple but stubborn, what are girls? Confusing but amusing. I just made that up. That doesn't work. Never mind. Move on. Let's move on. Okay. Well, okay. So when we think about how they can be reached through us, one of the things that he really encouraged us to do was to reach back to the time when we were kids and what was it that we needed, what was hurting us, and what would have helped us. And when I think about that, honestly, when I was a kid, all I wanted was for someone to just listen to me. Like, I'm like my littlest one is now. He's got an abundance of stuff to say, and it's just a lot. And he comes up with these things that are so complicated and so confusing because he's super smart. And I'm glad now someone ministered to me a long time ago that my kids were gonna be super smart. And since I had been losing babies quite often, I had had several miscarriages. I was comforted not only in the fact that I was going to have kids, but it was going to be kids plural, right? Like I was so comforted about that. But what they prophesied was that they were going to be so intelligent that people were going to think they were crazy. They weren't crazy. They were just super intelligent. And that word 20 years later has allowed me to really meet my little one where he is, because when he goes into these complicated things, I'm a smart cookie, y'all, but sometimes I'm like, well, okay, I got to keep track of this because he's going to expect an answer. He's going to expect an answer. He's going to expect me to follow. And after a while, I might be, hon, you're being too complicated for people. You got to distill it down and make it a little bit more simple, right? But all I wanted, I can look back at my childhood and I can imagine that my parents and my siblings probably felt the same way about me. Like I would probably talk about all these things, and all anybody wanted to do was come home, watch TV, and drink a beer. And that's the lifestyle. But when you have all these things, they're just bursting to be said, and then when no one lets you talk about them, well, now you feel shut down. So that's what I thought back to when I read this chapter.
I mean, it's not that complicated. I mean, I understand them pretty well.
You have not sat through hours of you being at school with me trying to follow this or that other complicated game that he's made up. I'm impressed that he does it. I just think it's amazing. Here's a comment from Kevin Williams. He's an expert on fatherhood. He says, as a kid, I most wanted adults to hear and value my ideas and opinions. Now, if you have not heard Kevin Williams, you need to go back to my YouTube channel and look up the interviews that he's done as part of our Building Wealth Together series, both the regular Building Wealth Together conference and the Women Building Wealth Together conference. He had knocked it out of the park. I most wanted adults to hear and value my ideas and opinions. Mm-hmm. And do you ever feel like we're too busy to really value your ideas and opinions?
Yeah, so there's just a lot of things. We're always so busy. You're always so busy going off doing a bunch of things. And then, I mean, Daddy's great, but it's just TV, and I don't really feel like I can just show all my ideas, speak out my ideas and all these things that I just want to try and stuff like that, and that he'll really care all that much. Because I mean, it's not. I don't think they really seem that interesting to him or anything like that. Because it's just, I guess my ideas are. I'm kind of like you in this whole. I have these all crazy ideas, things, and I just want to keep. I have one after the other.
Yeah.
And after a while, it just takes a toll on somebody. Then they just don't like.
Makes you feel like no one cares.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll do better about giving more times for you to talk. Especially with all these college visits we're going to be doing. You're going to have lots of time to talk in the car. Lots of time. We have some of our best conversations in the car, don't we? Like on the way home from football games and stuff.
She promises she won't get mad, and that's how you get her. She promises to not get mad while we're going on on the trip. So it's like win-win. I get to say what I want to say, and she won't get mad at it.
That's true because I'm focusing on that road.
Double thumbs up.
A friend of mine, Stephanie Wilson, she calls them conversations with her kiddos. All right, let's bring up the next principle here in Robert's book. And again, if you have not seen this book, I encourage you to go out to jjclink.com/cry. It'll take you to an Amazon page where you can get the book, and you can support what he's doing at youngmenbecomingmen.org. All right, so the next principle is going to be principle 5. Responsibilities. Okay, you're laughing. All right, let's bring us back up. Tell the world why you're laughing when you see that. I think I know where this is going. I don't know if I want to hear it.
Well, if we as teenagers are expected to have more responsibilities, we need to be trusted more. I mean, we need to have, if we're gonna have more responsibility, we need to be given more trust.
Oh, in what ways?
The more responsibility.
In what ways?
Trust.
What does that look like? Because I think parents would say it the other way around. If you want more trust, you should take on more responsibility. We should see that you're more responsible.
Yeah, but like just more like go chill. Well, I get to. I'm not necessarily speaking for myself because, well, I mean, I believe we have a good enough trust level, right? Where I can go hang out with my friends, and you don't think I'm gonna do anything because you know I'm not gonna do anything because I have been raised, and it has been engraved in my mind since I was a kid. Don't do this. So we've built that trust where if I go hang out with my friends, she knows nothing's gonna happen, and I just show my ashy elbows on camera.
I don't know that nothing's gonna happen. I don't know. Well,
that's another reason why it's trust. That's another reason why it's trust. You're trusting that I'm not gonna do anything, and I'm taking on more responsibilities to build that trust up more. But that's not what it was talking. What I got from this specific chapter.
Oh, what did you get from this specific chapter?
That was just something I just thought of immediately, thinking responsibilities. But what I really got from the chapter is lots of guys, young men, they mature really quickly, and they need to be taught, and they need to be nurtured. They need to be taught responsibility and focus. Because, well, they're growing up so fast, they need to be ready for anything that can come at them in the real world.
Yeah.
And they just need to be ready for all the responsibilities that come with becoming an adult.
Yeah.
So, like doing chores, having them do chores, having them learn how to
keep it going.
Having them know how to mow the lawn, work the yards, cook dinner. I don't know, I do the laundry, having them know all these just regular things. You would be surprised at how many kids don't know how to do their own laundry.
So I can post my how to vacuum the floor and how to do the dishes videos on your YouTube channel? Yay! No.
Not on mine, no.
I'm about to, though. I think I already posted the dishes one.
Anyway.
And how to do laundry. That was going to be my next one.
Yeah, people in my school do not know how to do laundry. I was so surprised when I figured that one out.
Well, now, to the people in your school's defense, mom has always worked very, very hard to put you in good schools. And there's a significant amount of people in your schools whose parents are high earners and so busy that they hire people to help with those household tasks to free up the parents' time to be a part of their kids' lives. Okay, yeah. So to their defense, some of those kids just don't realize that everybody's lifestyle doesn't come with a maid attached. Okay. Yeah. Let's check out this comment that Kevin put on here about trust and responsibility. Does one need to come first, or do they grow together?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Because you've asked me, and we're not going to say it online because that wouldn't be safe for us to say it online. But you've asked me for a very, very huge trust item, in February, and I have given you the level of responsibility that I need to see between now and then for me to allow you to experience that trust item. And that's an example of them growing together. But even if you earn the right to do what you want to do, then there's still the when I come when the whole thing is over,
Mhm.
has the trust been verified?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point. That's a real good
I do
point.
think they grow together.
I
What
think
else?
they grow together. Okay. Now here's one that I want to just kind of say to a lot of the kids out there. I mean, not kids, a lot of the parents out there. So for those of you who don't know, when I graduated from the Air Force Academy and became a physicist in the Air Force and started this career, my dad was incarcerated. And so when he was in jail, he had a jailhouse conversion, and when he graduated, I mean, not graduate, when he got out of jail, it took me a few years to really, I think it was about 8 years. In fact, it was after he was born. So that was about 8 years before I would even see my dad again, because I just didn't have a trust level that he really had changed. I figured he was just going to come back into my life. And now I had this big highfalutin job making more money than everybody in my immediate family. And he was just going to sponge off me, right? Because he was my dad and I wasn't going to be able to say no. Now, I'm just going to let everybody know I'm very good at saying no now. In fact, I'm going to say no in a heartbeat. My favorite word is no, especially when it comes to handouts, because I don't believe in handouts. I believe in hands up. And that's what we give on our Building Wealth Together channel. But one of the things that my dad did is he apologized to me for our upbringing, and he apologized to me for some of the things that he did to us when we were kids. And he said that he was a poor parent and he didn't know any better. He was just being the same parent that he had seen or his parents were. I don't remember if his parents died before I could ever meet them. I don't remember if he said it was his parents or it was just the culture or whatever it was. He modeled what he grew up with as parenting, and he modeled that for us. And what he spoke into my life before he passed away was that was not an ideal way to rear your children. And so when I see Robert Cooper talking here about how sometimes we treat our kids like kids because that's how we were treated, and we don't allow them to grow up, we don't create pathways for them to grow up, we don't create pathways for them to be responsible, that really struck a chord in me, because when my dad had that conversation with me, that was him intentionally changing our family tree. That was him intentionally saying, I'm ending this mistreatment of children right here, right now, with what I can do. I can't go back and change the past, but I can affect the future. And that's exactly what he did. All right, we're going to move on to the next chapter, but if you have a comment before I do that, go ahead and drop it in the chat and we'll address it real quick. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next chapter, which is effective communication. Now, I didn't pull a quote out of this one. There's a couple of them that I didn't pull quotes from, because the bottom line was, we're not trying to give away all of Robert's strategies. Like, I want you to go buy your own book, and I want you to go support him on the website. And so there was everything that I was looking at in this chapter that I wanted to say. It was just so juicy. And so I didn't want to share that. But Philip, let us know what you thought when you read this chapter about communication.
Well, what I picked up on it was that it was speaking more to the young men who were reading the book
Uh-huh.
rather than the parents.
Okay.
Because as I started reading more into it, I saw the whole word where it says to speak respectfully to your
Mhm.
parents.
Mhm.
Because how you
Mhm.
speak to your parents sets the tone for how the conversation goes out and how you're heard by your parents.
Ah.
If they will listen to what you have to say, or if they will think you're just rambling on or you're just very angry and not take it too seriously, or something like that. Because it's just heavy. I don't know. Be good with your words, I guess. Whenever you're speaking with your parents, be respectful.
And if you don't know how to say something in a respectful way, how can you still show respect to your parents but get your point out?
That's a good question, actually. I would think it would be with all due respect.
Oh goodness, no.
Which never works.
No,
but-
not from your. Well, I think that's going to be parent to parent dependent, and I
Mhm.
think a parent and a child should have that conversation before that child becomes a young man or a young woman.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really kind of surprised that you don't have a ready answer, because as
I
you were
don't.
growing up, I would always say that's not a very respectful way to say it. Let's find another respectful way to say it. And so I think for me, one of the things would be to be calm, not be all abrupt in anger, although I admit he does get it from his mama. Um,
That's another. We can talk about that later.
about all the things you get from me that I don't like that you got from me.
Well, there's some things that we'll talk about
No,
later.
no, let's talk about it now. Inquiring minds want to know. What are some other things? One is anger. One is being quick to anger. I admit it.
One thing is being quick to assumptions.
I'm not.
Yes, you are very quick to assumptions.
Am I?
With me, my brother, and with Dad,
What?
you were very quick to assumptions. Yes.
Oh dear.
Mhm.
Like what?
Well, anytime one of us gets defensive or anything like that, like no, we did not do this or something like that, it's always you always think, yes, we did do that. Well, I mean, if you're getting accused of something, obviously your heart rate is going to rise. Because you did, if you didn't do it, your heart rate is going to rise. Because it's like, why is this person accusing me? What did I do that I didn't do anything? Obviously, you're going to get really defensive. But the way you see it, if somebody gets so defensive, if they didn't do it, they wouldn't be getting so defensive about it.
Hit dog hollers.
But that's not everybody. That's especially not everybody in this family.
Oh really?
Mhm. I'm not.
What
just
you're
speaking for
saying
myself,
is
but-
when I get upset, when I come home after a long day or a long trip and there's pee all over the toilet and I talk to all three of y'all because I don't know which one did it. You're really saying is I didn't do it. Please stop putting me in these conversations.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. And no, I don't do it because I'm not going to explain it because I'd be very rude. But and another thing, last night when you came into my room, or didn't come into my room, but you assumed I was doing something that I shouldn't have been doing.
You were.
I
Wait
was
a
not.
second. You
I
were
was
on
not.
your
I
iPad.
was not doing something I was not.
You
supposed
were
to do.
not supposed to have your
No.
iPad.
This is after these last 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however long it's been. What I was informed was that I would lose my phone privileges and my iPad privileges. I would lose that for a week. As soon as I get
Who
home,
said that?
as soon as I would lose my phone privileges forever. Or not.
Well, that's what mom
No,
said. That's what mom said.
said.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, Dad ran interference on that one because I was about to cut your phone off.
But I would lose my phone privileges for however long. I wouldn't have it during school, during at home, or whatever. Whenever I got my iPad, because we have a school iPad, I would not have that at home for about a week to a week and a half. And then as if I continued to show that I was going to be respectful, get my work done, all that stuff, that I would be able to get more responsibility back. And eventually, after about a week to 2 weeks, they stopped asking for my iPad back. And now I wouldn't get on it all the time because I didn't really have a need to, because I was still in trouble. But it was, I
Mhm.
figured after the next couple of weeks of
Oh,
not,
you figured. Okay, go ahead. Go
well,
ahead.
because they had
This is
stopped.
educational
They
for
had
me.
stopped asking for it every time after we got home. That my dad would stop asking for it every time I got home, and so I was like, okay, I'm not going to be on it a lot because that would be just, well, obviously they're going to take it away from me, but maybe I've developed I've developed more trust that I now seem like I deserve because I've gotten more.
Yeah. I can see where you
Responsibility.
thought this, but then you hid it when I came in.
Well, no, I didn't hide it. What I did,
I heard the
did-
papers and I knew where to look.
no, this is what I did because I heard you and Dad talking outside. I heard out here. I heard y'all talking, and y'all said something about the dishes. And see, my thought process is I was gonna come out once it was 8:30. I was gonna come out to come get my phone, see if I needed to do anything, get my phone back, because there wasn't really any dishes in the sink at that time. And so when I heard dishes, I figured, well, maybe I'll get my phone sooner. So I was like, all right, let me get out there. And then as soon as I was reaching for the door, you knocked on the door.
Yes.
And then I opened the door and you're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Yeah,
Because I heard you rustle paper,
because I had paper on my bed.
and it ended up over the iPad.
I had paper on my bed.
That ended up over the iPad.
That was
So I get where you're coming from, but I hope you can see where I was like, he knew he shouldn't have been on that. It sounds like
I
you
know
didn't,
I
but I
should-
hope you can see why I thought you did.
I mean, I can see where you're coming from.
Because
But
you hid the iPad.
I did not hide it.
You did not drop the iPad on top of the thing and come into the door. You hid it under papers and a blanket and a hoodie or something.
I didn't.
Because I had to move stuff to get to it.
I was literally
Mhm.
just.
So this is an example of communication
Mhm,
and how your actions communicated one thing to me,
mhm.
and how our actions, like Dad not asking specifically for the iPad, communicated something else to you.
Well, because normally he would be like, "All right, now that we're home, go get a device for me," and so I'd be like, "Yes, sir, I give it." And then
Oh,
he stopped asking, and so I was like, "Well, if he stopped asking, then I'll I guess, just leave it in my room until he asks for it," and he never asked for it. So I was like, "Okay, well, I finally built this back up. Now I just got to work on getting the phone back, and then everything will go back to being normal, except that I won't be getting in trouble. And now I've got
Oh,
really
look,
good.
Mr. Kevin's on your side.
Now I've got, yeah. Now I've got the motivation to. I've gotten my motivation to
To do better.
to get straight A's again
Uh-huh.
back in school. I've got some really good motivation, and I can see. So that's another thing.
Yeah, I think getting those contacts really help. Okay, so to learn respectful communication, try what Philip said to chapters ago. I want to say this, but not sure how to say it respectfully. Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because I do that a lot of times. There's a lot of things that I want to say, and I'm in the moment and I'm in the energy, and I know the way I'm about to say it is going to make people mad, and I don't want to make people mad unnecessarily. I don't have a problem. Let's not get it twisted. I don't have a problem making people mad. That's part of what I do. That's part of my personality. It's why I'm good at finding issues in organizations and helping people solve those issues, improve their processes, their people, and their profits. That's how I can be good at what I do. That's a gift that the Lord has given me, is not being worried about making people mad. But at the same time, I don't want to make you mad unnecessarily. I only want to make you mad intentionally. Okay.
I think I got that from her.
Yeah.
At school, I do be trying to find ways to make people mad.
Well, I don't just try to yank people's chain, but I want to know who you are and what you're made out of. If we're going to do business together, or if we're going to do something together, I want to understand how you respond when you disagree with me. I want to understand, are you a yes man or a yes woman, or are you somebody that I can trust to give me your honest opinion in these little things, so that I know that I'll get it in the big things. All right, let's move on to principle number 7.
Principle number 7 is
You don't like principle number 7? I thought you were going to be all over this. Really?
I mean,
Wait a second now. Okay.
It's just not something I want to talk about.
Okay, so I thought you were going to be all over chapter 7, because what they talk about is how sometimes the way you show love to somebody isn't the way that they receive love. And so I just knew you were going to be like, yeah, my mom is always trying to spend quality time with us, when really what we want is just to chill and watch TV.
Well, yeah, that's what we want. But then whenever she gets us away from the TV and all that stuff, we didn't tend to have a good time. So, I mean, it's like, it's a win. In the end, it's a win. In the very beginning, whenever in the moment, it's a lose situation in the very moment whenever it's happening. But after a while, after a couple minutes, 10, 20 minutes, it's like, oh, this isn't so bad. I actually enjoy doing this. It's something like at the rock park.
Yeah, y'all didn't want to leave that.
Well, no, but originally in my mind, I never said it, but in my mind, I was like, oh, I don't really want to go to this. I feel like it's just going to be, I'm just going to have to spend a ton of time with my brother. I don't really feel like doing this. I'm going to be having to spend hours, and I just want to go home and relax and just after the exams. And then once I got out there, I was like, oh, this is actually really fun. I actually had a great time playing with my brother. Mm-hmm, and then we had some fun on the bridge, taking some pictures. Got some cool pictures that I got to post on my Instagram, Wiggy_D right there. Got some really cool pictures. Check those out. With the 10-foot probably 12
that was
foot
probably
long
12-foot long stick that you
stick
pulled out of that barrier.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I enjoyed myself. So
So let me
It's
ask
like-
you this: if the five love languages, and I forget the name of the person who wrote the book, but there's a book called The Five Love Languages, and there's another one that the same people wrote called The Five Love Languages of Apology, and that was really groundbreaking for me because I realized I was expecting too much from most people because most people don't have the same levels of apology that I had. But the five love languages are words of affirmation. Ah, there we go. Kevin's got it. Gary Chapman. Yep. But I have it in the room. I would go grab it, but I'm not going to risk leaving the screen area here.
me by myself.
Oh, that might be fun, actually.
I don't know if y'all want to have a conversation. I mean, I'm a pretty chill dude.
Maybe not on this topic. I'll go get it on one where you, there's chapter 12. I think you're going to want to talk to the audience by yourself for a little bit. And but words of affirmation, so saying nice things, saying I love you, saying those kinds of nice things, I'm proud of you, I respect you, I admire you, those kinds of things. Now there's another one called acts of service, and that's big for me. I'm really big on acts of service. If you can do something for me that makes my life easier, better, more efficient, more effective, then I love that, right? That makes me feel cared for. It makes me feel loved. And another big one for me is quality time. You know, I'm not a big gift person. I don't want stuff. I want to go out to dinner. I want to have a phone call that lasts 2 hours and we're giggling like high school girls. Maybe not with my son. You know, I want to go to the amusement park with you. I want to go on a cruise with you. Like, I want to do those things. And I'm not necessarily asking people to pay for them, but just people, not asking people to pay my way. Not, let's not get that twisted. But just the fact that we're taking time to spend time together, that's huge for me. That's so huge. Another one is physical touch. So some people just really love the snuggles. Some people don't. Another one is receiving gifts. And that was one that was really hard for me because, again, that doesn't mean anything to me. I'm one of those people that I got obligation gifts on birthday, Christmas, or whenever you're supposed to. I got the obligatory card from the boss, but the boss didn't really like me. Like, I'm that kind of person. So you give me a gift and it doesn't mean much unless I know you really care. And people don't write handwritten notes and cards anymore. And people don't pick out gifts that really, like, I don't know, maybe it's just a reflection of the crummy young adulthood that I had. But you know, I was the person when I first became a young adult and had my job that you could tell that whoever got me in Secret Santa regifted something they didn't want, right? Like, it was just, I don't want that. I would have birthday parties when I was a kid, and this is supposed to be about you, not me. But this might give you some insight into different what makes a parent one way, whereas you might be another way. But I remember my sister used to have these big birthday parties and the whole school would come. And I think my 9-year-old birthday party, we had a ton of people. I'm still not sure why, but I remember that I was wearing a pink jumpsuit. I actually looked pretty cool. My mom rolled my hair in a cute style where my hair was normally a mess. But most of my birthday parties were a handful of people. And my sister would get all these gifts and have all these friends, and I wouldn't. And so I've just never been a big gifts person. So I had to learn that some people are. And I have a little one. He's a huge gifts person. He's a huge gifts person. So what are your love languages? Like, how do you feel loved?
Spending time.
Spending time?
Yeah.
Letting you talk?
I don't know about letting me talk, but just spending time doing things that both of us find enjoyable.
Okay.
Now, I would say video games, but not everybody finds playing video games together enjoyable. But I mean, if you like video games and you like the video games that I like, and we can just spend hours doing that, I would be completely cool with that.
I tried. Remember when your friends loved it when your mom played Fortnite with you because they would match you guys with the easy teams? I don't think the algorithm does that anymore because they haven't asked me to play for a long time. Yeah. But that's an important one. That's an important one. And like, I think it's important to really understand that how we show love is usually aligned with our love language, but that may not be what they need. And so if I have somebody that was always mean, and I have somebody prominent in my life who is often very mean to me, and then they would turn around and mail me a really nice extravagant gift, and to me that was not, I don't want the gift, I just want quality time and you to love, you know. But that's how some people are. Like, you can treat people how you want, but if you give them a gift they're happy. Well, that's not me, and that may not be your kid. And that came out a little harsh, didn't it? Well, because I worked in the Air Force as an officer with a lot of people who really neglected their kids, and they would say things like, well, kids are resilient, or they would say things like, oh, well, I'm going to take them all to Disney World, and we're going to get the muckety muck pass that allows us to skip the line, and we have our own personal Disney escort throughout the whole park, and that's going to make up for 2 years of a crummy command assignment where you neglected your family because you were trying to make rank. Like, that's not how the world works, and it may work for some kids, but it sure doesn't work for all kids. And so, we don't want to be the reason our kids go to therapy if we don't have to be. All right. All righty. I love it. And I appreciate those of you who are putting up comments. If you have, as we go to principle 8, if you have comments, if you have questions, if you have thoughts, we'd love to hear them. This is to be interactive. And principle number 8 is emotions. And I'm just going to say, this one was surprising to me. And I never really realized, I think, until maybe a couple years ago, how very emotional young men and grown men can be. Because a lot of times guys are supposed to be so stoic and tough, and they don't show it. And to me, if you don't show it, then I don't know it. Oh, I like that. Wait. How did I say that? If you don't show it, then I don't know it. If you don't show the emotion, I don't know that you care. And so for me, when I'm with people who don't care, when I'm with people who don't show the emotion, it's easy to jump to conclusions that they don't care. And what I'm learning here is that I have to make it safe for the young men and the grown men in my life to show that emotion to me. All right, Philip, what do you say about that? We'll catch this comment in a second, but what do you say about that?
Well, we can be very emotional. Young men, we can be very emotional. I don't like to show too much emotion. I try to hide it.
Yeah.
A lot. But lots of things, it's kind of like social media things. It's like what's portrayed on the outside isn't really what's going on the inside. You're just wearing a mask sometimes. And it's just lots of young men are taught that they're soft if they have feelings, if they show their feelings, or if they're like feeling a certain way, and like they're just soft if they express what's going on and how they feel and things like that. And lots of times they just really want guidance. Like, how do I get through this? What are the things I need to do to get me out of the situation I'm done? Because sometimes it's just because whenever they come to somebody, they're hoping that person has an answer. But then if that person's like, well, you're too soft, you don't deserve an answer, you're a man up.
Oh, does that happen though? When was the last time somebody said that to you?
I haven't.
Outside of football, because I'm sure the coaches say stuff like that.
Coaches want you to talk to them.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
It's just a pride thing, I guess. You just don't want to. You don't want to, like, show or give, like, let out what's happening, your problems, your feelings, your emotions, because of just pride. You don't want to feel weak. You want to be strong, and that's just a thing that I guess we have to work on is to not feel like we need to keep our emotions inside all the time. Like, I mean, I do feel like there are lots of instances where you just have to get through things by yourself. It's just certain things that you just can't tell other people that you need to solve yourself.
Mhm.
But there are lots of instances where you need to talk to somebody,
Yeah.
help them, or let them help you get through it.
Mhm.
Let them guide you through whatever's happening, because in the end, that's really what you need, is just a little guidance to get
Mhm.
through what you're dealing with.
Yeah, or to open up some things that you may not have known were possibilities.
Mhm.
So I find that for me, a lot of times I feel like I'm in this situation, I could do this or I could do this. And what I'm not seeing is I could do that, or I could do that, or I could do that. But I don't see those three. I just see this one or this one. And I'm like, I don't know what to do, this or this. And neither one of them are good. But getting some guidance and allowing someone to speak into my life, then I can see other options and pick the best one.
Mhm.
All right, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you. I hope you know that. Now I'm going to drop back real quick and we're going to go back to love language. And I thought this comment was really quite key. We were talking about how my son, how you used to have me play Fortnite with you and your friends because the algorithm back then, if you had a lower skilled player, would match y'all with lower skilled teams, and we would dominate. Like we would just dominate, but
Get win after win
win after win after win, and y'all would get higher. Is it called XP? Y'all would get higher rankings and stuff like that. But here, Kevin was saying his son wants him to play video games, but then he pulls down his son's ranking. So, I guess each game, got to find the games where the parents really can contribute. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this is preparation. And for me as a professional speaker, this is one of those really tough lessons that I had to learn. And I was really surprised to find it in Robert's book, because when it comes to professional speaking, we always want to appear to be authentic and we're speaking off the cuff. And that's what we're doing today. We're speaking off the cuff today. We've read through the book, we've prepared a couple of thoughts on it, but for the most part, we're having a raw, live conversation about A Young Man's Cry by Robert Cooper. And so, but in professional speaking, when I'm on stage, I don't want that to be a raw event. I want that to be something that I've rehearsed hundreds of times, so much that it's in every cell of my body. And that if I need to shift, I can shift to another story or another keynote that's in every cell of my body. And when I first heard that, I was very resistant because I didn't want to live that way. I wanted, me, I'm fiery. I want to be in the moment. I want the emotion and the passion. But once I learned that preparation was the foundation for my speaking and allowing me to reach back in the moment when the pressure's on and the lights are shining on you and you can't see the audience because it's all bright in your face, and the people are asking the hard questions because they're trying to stump the dummy, all of that pressure makes me appreciate the preparation. So what did you take out of this chapter on preparation?
Well, honestly, I think this is one of the best ways to lift up the youth.
Uh-huh.
Because whenever you're talking about preparations, that also means you have to communicate with your kids, you have to communicate with your young men, and like talk about what their goals are and their aspirations are. And I really think that in like the way that it like helps like lift them up is because like they're looking for someone to support them.
Yeah.
Like whatever their goals and aspirations are, they're looking for somebody that can support them and help them accomplish whatever they have, like whatever dreams that they have. So I know me. Having a little help whenever, or like talking about it, talking about my goals and whatever I have that I want to do, and then having somebody who will listen to me and support me, and then help me later on to get where I want to be. I know you have me going on these college trips and visits and stuff like that. That helps me that gives me more motivation, that gets my spirits up, because now I'm ready. I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be successful in it, and now I'm just ready to show them what I can do.
Yeah, and I'm ready to see it. I'm ready to see it, and not because I want you to buy Mom a house, although you're welcome to do that. You can buy me a Corvette too while you're at it, or a Charger. I kind of like the Charger, the muscle car. But
I'll buy you a truck.
You are not. You are not funny.
I will buy you a monster truck that you can just.
For those of you who don't know, we're down to one vehicle right now, and so this one has been laughing at me driving Dad's truck, driving my husband's truck, and getting used to driving that big old truck. I think the first week that I borrowed the truck or drop him off at work and come back home, I think I fell out of that driver's seat the whole first week. I couldn't even get out in the truck. It was ridiculous. Okay. Let's see. We've got some people here. Who've jumped in. Hey, I'm so excited. The prophetess Chandra Nicole Gore is on with us today. And we have a comment here. I don't see who this is, but I love the fact that they are jumping in on preparation. I speak well and with great confidence when I have prepared well. I can be spontaneous when I'm well-versed and confident on the subject. This also applies to how I handle different life situations. And you know what? I'm going to let you in on a secret on how your mama thinks. You know how I make decisions real quick?
Yeah.
Usually I'm making decisions real quick because in my mind, I've already thought through so many different possibilities that when it comes up, I can move quickly. So like, especially in business, like if we're going to have this conference next week in Dallas, so hey y'all, wealthymen23.com, get your tickets. It's going to be fabulous. But we're going to have this conference in Dallas next week. And when we have that conference, I've already thought through, what if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? What if this opportunity arises? You know, one time, and this has nothing to do with Robert's book, y'all, but I'm on a roll now, so we're gonna tell the story. One time, I had a world-class billionaire speaker passing through DC, and his staff offered to have him come keynote my conference, and I couldn't hardly believe it, but I was prepared and open to the possibility of him coming. He came, he rocked the house, and actually, it was the worst thing in the world for me to have scheduled myself right after him. It was good because the people he attracted to the conference were still there, but boy, oh boy, my presentation was just, and so I learned a lot that day. But the more important lesson I learned was, even though in my mind I was like, there's no way this guy's coming. There's no way this guy's coming. Because I had prepared myself to be able to be flexible, I was able to be flexible and incorporate him. And it's been 6, 7, 8 years now, and people are still talking about that conference. So here's an interesting thing. You're going to have to get the book to get the steps, but he goes through here and he gives some things that you can do to make sure you are making a good impression when you go in to be interviewed for a job. And I was like, man, this is gold. I wish somebody would have given me these nuggets of gold when I went off. And he talks about different things that we have to prepare ourselves for, and just preparing to win at life. You made the comment earlier that right now a lot of kids are just kind of, you know, they're growing into young adulthood, but their preparation is video games and Snapchat. And that's fun. Yet at the same time, that's not going to prepare you for a high earning job or for a cushy lifestyle or for being able to impact the world through your nonprofit. All right. This has been fun, y'all. This has been fun. We've got a couple more principles to go. And I got to tell you, before I pull up the next one, as soon as I read the title for this next chapter, I was like, oh, he's going to say his mama. I already know it. He's going to say his mama. Okay, so we're going to go to chapter 10, and who knows what chapter 10 is going to be. Principle 10 is, drum roll, frustration. And as soon as I saw it, y'all, I was like, I know what he's going to think. my mom. And then he's going to wonder, can I actually say that on the video?
I would have said it even if didn't think I could say it. I mean, I would have to say it because then it would be like, oh, we're on the live, so I have to keep this going.
You have to keep it going. But
Big brain.
Big brain. All right. What did you think when you read this principle on frustration? There's a lot of things that frustrate you as a young man, aren't there?
Oh, yes.
Half of them are your mom.
The only thing that really frustrates me is just whenever I'm accused of something I didn't do.
You know what? I do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make a public confession. Half the stuff I accuse you of, I know you didn't do it.
Close your ears, please.
Is this a time for me to go get the boundaries book?
Yeah, just
I mean, the words of affirmation book?
Women. All right.
Well, when you...
I thought you closed your ears.
I just saw your face. I knew exactly what you said.
Oh. I guess you can say what I said.
But you know what, though? When you become a grown man over your old household, you're going to understand it. You're going to look back on that and you're going to understand that. Okay, so you get frustrated when people falsely accuse you.
Yeah, but I know, and whenever I was reading the book, I was looking at, or it was showing like how to deal with the things, how to deal with these frustrations that you get. Because there's a lot of times where life can just be really frustrating, where people are like trying to set you back, or just things in life are just like, it's like everything's against you.
Mm-hmm,
whatever you're trying to do, it's just everything is coming at you to make sure you fail. And he was talking about in the book, to handle it, you just have to have the right mindset. You just have to have a mindset that whatever comes your way,
yeah,
you're just going to push through it, and you're going to come back, fight back stronger, and you're just going to succeed. Like, because I know me, I've had lots of times where it just feels like everyone's out to get you, where like life just isn't it. You just don't want to do it. It's like, it's not worth it. You feel like it's not worth it. But you gotta remember, you have to have people around you who will keep you up, keep you motivated, keep you strong, keep your will up, and just have that mindset that you're gonna push through it and you're gonna come back stronger than ever and prove everybody wrong, prove life wrong. Yes.
Well, the fact that you even have the mindset that you're going to make it, that's huge, because a lot of times we grow up hopeless and we get in these situations and we feel like it's hopeless and there's nothing we can do. And there's always something that we can do. There's always a way through it. There's always a way around it. With God, all things are possible. And what's that phrase? It's not over till God says it's over. Or what? No. All things work together for my good. And if it hasn't worked together for my good yet, then it's not over. And so that's an adaptation of one of our scriptures. Well, let me go ahead and pull up the next one. And this is the one he accuses me of not wanting any to talk about. But I actually realize now we have to talk about more than ever. Like, I've got 1.5 years to pour into my son what I know about relationships. All right, Philip, what are you taking away from this one?
Well, when he's talking about it, he was definitely talking to the young man in this. Talking about the things that you can do whenever you're interested in your special lady, your special crush. I'm not going to go over everything because there's some really good stuff, and so you need to buy the book.
You need to buy the book.
If you want to see it. It's really powerful. But what I will say is that the best, like, one of the things that he mentions in there in the book about relationships is communicating effectively. Like, I know it's said everywhere, on every single book and every single platform, anything that's just related to relationships, just anything that is related to that, talking about it, it's communication. But it's true. If you have bad communication, it's never going to work out.
Yeah.
That was one thing. And it's also finding out how y'all work with each other,
Mm-hmm.
and if you finding out if y'all are really gonna be able to like match to make it all the way to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Because and finding out what they really are, what's behind the whole how do I want to say what's behind the whole, I guess, mask, because people put on a persona whenever they're like trying to date somebody, they like somebody,
Mm-hmm.
they put on
Oh,
they
yes.
put on their best behavior. It's like they hide everything that's going wrong in their lives
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to lose you. They want, but you gotta find out what's going on behind the scenes too,
Yeah.
and how y'all can work with each other, how y'all be able to handle whatever happens before you make all the commitments. You want to know everything that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily everything, because that's
Yeah.
probably a lot.
I think
but-
I knew what you meant, though. I mean, people do. When you go out to eat, a lot of times girls will pick whatever they think you want.
Mhm.
Or, you know, they'll go to football and all these things because it's what you want, and they never acknowledge. And guys do this too, but I think women do it more than men do.
It
That
irritates me
they
so
don't
much.
acknowledge that, you know what, I don't like football. I'm only coming because I know it's, you know, he wants to see me there. Well, that's okay when you're dating, but what happens 10 years down the line when you're tired of football?
Mhm.
And I like football. I don't dislike football, but I tell you what, I never thought I'd be in a situation where I was going to his football game Thursday, Mr. Mann's band
Friday,
Thursday. This is last
Friday.
year. This is last year.
Friday.
And before you made varsity this year, going to his football game on Thursday, going to Mr. Mann's band performance on Friday, then going to little one's football on Saturday, and then of course watching the NFL after church on Sunday. Like, football was 4 days out of my life. And that's like more than half the week. Well, if I had pretended to like it, like so many women pretend to like this sport or that sport to get the man, well, if I had just pretended, I'd have been a real miserable mama. Because my whole life over the fall revolves around my ministry, my family, but my family revolves around football during fall. So, you know, that's you got to be real with who you are. But now do I want to come right out the gate when I meet somebody new and tell them about all the bad things, tell them my dad was in jail when I graduated from college and all this and all that? No, of course not. But what else did he say about relationships? Because
Well,
well,
one of the big things is people like to rush into them too quickly.
Whoa.
You just gotta know. You gotta know if you're. You gotta find out if you're ready. You gotta know if you're ready to start a relationship. Because there are a lot of people who just aren't ready for one, and I don't think you really truly. Well, no, you can't. Some people don't really know if they are truly ready for a relationship until they actually start to go into a relationship, and then it's like, oh well, maybe I'm not ready for this. But like,
wait. Let me finish this. Because I think you need to say that again. And I was realizing, we were missing an opportunity because people are sending me messages that they want to know how they can pour into you. And so I'm adding this in here now. We're going to save that, and I'm going to see if that'll scroll properly. It's not adding the spaces. I'm sorry about that. But people are asking me how they can support you. So if you want to support Philip in his college fund, you can send me a monetary gift of any kind at Queen of Cashflow. That'll work on PayPal and that'll work on Cash App. I think it will also work on Venmo, but I just set that up. So please use PayPal or Cash App because I don't want to disturb my phone to find out. But you said something very telling about relationships. You said, go ahead and say it again.
not all people are ready for a relationship. You need to know if you are truly ready to start a relationship. And people don't always know if they're ready until they get in one. And then it's like, well, I'm actually not ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to cut you off. And that's what happens with a lot of people. And then it's like, well, what was the point? They leave a lot of people brokenhearted, and it's just leads to other things down the line.
Brokenhearted though. Let's talk about that brokenhearted. Why is that brokenhearted? If you get into a relationship with somebody and they're not ready for a relationship and they break it off, what does that feel like?
Well, it's painful. It's because like most of the time they don't know for a couple months.
Mhm.
They don't know if they're truly ready or not, and they think they're ready. They think
Yeah.
they're ready, but then after a couple months, they decide they're not ready, and then they cut off from you and start to just distance yourself from you, and that's just heartbreaking.
Mm.
It's not fun to have that happen.
No, it's not fun. I think what's more not fun is when somebody cuts off a relationship and you don't understand why. Even if it's a friendship, if somebody was your friend and y'all were buddies, like when being in the military and moving from base to base to base, if I leave this base and our friendship doesn't follow me to the next base, then I just assumed that was a temporary friendship. That was a friendship of convenience. We were all here at the same place together. We're all in Qatar together. We're all in Korea together. We're all wherever together. And we're friends while we're there because we don't have anybody else. And then we move on and we develop other friendships. But if we had like a kindred spirit kind of thing going on and I never hear from you, well, then that does hurt. But I do know when it comes to relationships, romantic relationships, there was somebody that I had fallen head over heels for. And they were somebody that my other girlfriends had fallen heads over heels for. So it was almost like an initiation into this singles group. If you were in this group as a woman, you were going to fall for this guy at some point, right? And I remember when I decided he was not the one. And we're going to get to this comment about the heartbreak real soon, and I see we have another comment about love language, but I hope that this will help somebody. I remember when I realized that he was not the one, and it's such a small thing, it's such a small thing, but his father had cut off the insurance on his life. So his father had a life insurance policy. His father stopped paying for that policy and cut it off so that his wife, my friend's mother, would not get insurance money if the father died. And the reasoning behind this was, well, the father did not want the wife to take his insurance money and live it up on the town like the other widows in their circle were doing with their husbands' insurance money and wealth that had been acquired in the marriage. And I suspect, but this friend didn't say, that what was also being observed by the dad is that some of these widows were taking their husband's wealth, their late husband's wealth, and spending it on other men. Now he never said all that, but I said to my friend, but your mother followed your father around his entire career and sacrificed all of her life to rear you and your sister. She deserves that money. Whatever she chooses to do with it, she deserves that money. That's a husband's way of saying, I love you and I appreciate everything you sacrificed for my career and to rear my children. And when he was like, no, I agree with my father. I wouldn't want my wife taking the insurance money and living it up while I'm dead. And I was like, he's not the one. And my girlfriends were so shocked. They're like, how did you just turn that off real quick? It's not that I don't love that person. It's not that I don't still care about that person. It's not that person won't ever have a spot on my couch if they were ever in a hard time, them and their family, right? They've married and moved and had kids and things like that. It's not that I would never, within the confines of Mr. Man, it's not that I would never not help that person out. But when you make that kind of comment, you're not the one. And if you're not the one, I'm not going to sit around waiting for you because I'm waiting for the one. And I just realized that all that I just said probably makes it even harder for my poor son to talk to me about when his heart gets broken. Sorry. I really thought I was being helpful, but I think I was being prideful.
Well, I mean, it does show me what to look for, what not to look for in a girl. So, anyway.
You don't want somebody who's going to pine around for you for 20 years and you're not the one for her.
Yeah.
And you don't want to pine around for 20. Look, y'all, can we just set the book aside for a second? Can we just set the book aside for a second? Let's just set it over here. We'll get it right back again. You don't want to pine away for somebody who's not right for you. They're right for somebody else. Somebody else is right for you. And there may be 10 women that are right for you. I don't believe in this whole, there's only one, right? I believe that any two people with similar backgrounds, and especially if they have the Holy Ghost, can make it work. But if you're not right for somebody, why force it? Because that's going to be work. 20 years from now, you'll be tired of that. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
How do I know? I already had one failed marriage. All right. Let's take a look at some of these comments we have here. This one here, is the heartbreak more about how it's done? Okay, so this is a question for you. Is the heartbreak more about how it's done and or how you communicate throughout the relationship?
Well, I don't know about that, because whenever we were communicating, it wasn't a bad communication. We were communicating wonderfully. We called all the time, texted throughout the day, but eventually
During school?
well,
I'm teasing. It's
that was
okay.
one thing. I wasn't really on my phone too much during school, but it was, well, we kind of like after a while, I guess she wasn't ready, or maybe I know she also had things that were going on and with her parents and stuff like that, telling her that she needs to focus on other things.
So the hurt is this person didn't like you as much as you thought they did?
No, they liked me, but they told me, it was like, well, I'm gonna start distancing myself because my dad said I needed to start focusing on my job and all this stuff like that. And so he was like, yeah, I'm gonna start distancing myself, and then just like stopped talking.
Yeah.
After a while, and then there was a lot more stuff that happened after that. But I guess it's also the communication that happens.
Well, I'm sure all the mamas are watching this, so just be careful what you say. You can tell me in private later.
It's painful whenever like you are trying to keep the conversations going, but they're just like it's their goal to just completely ghost you and like just stop the conversations from keeping going. Yeah,
that hurts. I was when I was at the Air Force Academy, I broke off the engagement with your father over something. I forget what. But I broke off our engagement. And during that time where we weren't engaged anymore, I went out with this guy. And he's kind of a lot like Dad now, like your stepdad. And I went out with this guy, and we had such a great click together, and we had so much fun. And, we were respectful of each other's boundaries and things. Just a good, solid American guy. But his parents did not foresee him settling down with somebody who looked like me and who had my family background. So they were troubled because of my appearance, and they were troubled because my father was incarcerated at the time. And in their perspective, and this is a false doctrine that many churches still teach, that if I was really chosen by God, that I wouldn't have been born into a family where my dad was incarcerated. Right. And that's I forget which doctrine that is, Calvinist, or there's some very common doctrine that stems from in the Christianity. And so he was like, well, my dad said I can have fun with you, but I can't date you or bring you home. And I was like, yeah, I'm not that kind of girl, But that was a real hurt. It was like, wait a second. So you're going to not go out with me because your parents don't like two things about me that I can't control. I can't control that my dad was incarcerated, and I can't control the color of my skin. And unfortunately for you, we live in the South. And so you might come across that, especially when you go off to college, because I think people here know who we are. They know that I served in the military, and they know your dad, your stepdad. And so I think you might have a little bit of an easier time here than in another small Texas town, but we live in the South. And there's going to be people that you like and socially or whatever that they're going to have to distance from you.
Yeah.
I found that even as a single grown woman, my singles group when I was in Louisiana the first time, when I moved back to Louisiana the second time, I noticed that all the minorities fell out of the group. And I don't know, I didn't know at the time how that happened or what had happened, but it was almost a part of taking your place in society is shedding those people whose appearances don't jive with the high society there. And so that was a real troubling thing for me. So I appreciate whoever asked that question. And they also talked about balancing how much time we spend in each other's love language. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. I have a ton of thoughts, but I've been talking too much as it is.
I don't really know if I have enough experience in the relationships of like relationship status because of her. I don't really try to get into relationships that often. I don't really, because to me, I feel like anytime I'm gonna get into a relationship, she's just gonna be like no. So I would like try to just.
So wait a second, I took you and paid for your very first date.
Yeah, that's true. But
and that wasn't cheap. Y'all both picked $30 a pop hibachi.
That's another thing. I don't like it whenever a girl is just like, oh, I like whatever you like. I mean, I want you to choose your own. If you
now to her defense, I don't think she'd ever been out like that before.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. For that particular girl. Yeah.
I don't like it when all the time they're constantly trying to make me feel like the king. Like, I mean, obviously I like to feel respected, but
Of
like
course.
I don't want to feel like everything they do is to try to make me happy. Because that just doesn't make me feel good. I want them to also feel happy too.
Like, and if they're always pretending,
if they're always trying to do things for me and pretend to like the things that I like, that's not is the relationship 20 years from now, 10 years from now, it's not going to be the same as it was in the moment.
Or even 10 days from now, because you don't know what makes them tick.
Right.
You don't know what they like.
Yeah.
The next guy comes along and gives them what they like. And all of a sudden you're like, well, if I'd have known that you liked purple flowers, I'd have given you purple flowers. But you kept telling me you like pink flowers because I like pink flowers. That was a kind of a lame example, but I think it works, right?
But it works.
Yeah, that's a really good book to read when you're getting ready to date is His Needs, Her Needs. And it's a book about recovering from from affair. But to me, it lays a foundation of, hey, here's what you want to acknowledge in yourself and look for in a partner. So, all right, well, let's get back to Robert Cooper's book.
Can we just appreciate these shirts?
I know. I love these shirts. Mine's a little worn because I've worn it a million times because I love it.
I wish my mom would have shown me this shirt sooner. I would have worn that today. Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, we're good. I was just trying to showcase the shirt, the goats.
Right. Greatness over abuse and trauma. Okay, so I think we have a couple more that left, and this one really shocked me because you said this was the chapter that really hit home for you. You said this was the chapter that really hit home for you in this book. So let's talk about it. Chapter 12, That Alone Feeling.
Well, there are lots of times where as young men we just feel alone. I know this type of thing has been said with the whole like we're men, we have to be tough, we can't show feelings and stuff like that, but just feeling alone, like you can't talk to somebody about something, about what's happening with what's troubling you, just feeling like you don't have anybody to really care for the things like that are happening. It's really painful. And I guess when I was reading the book, like it really hit home. I was just reflecting on myself about how I do feel alone a lot of times because a lot of things that just happened, and it was like I just didn't even like the last couple weeks. I just didn't even care about school at that point. I was just like, which led to me not doing as well for those couple of weeks, which led to me getting in trouble. And because I was just out of it. I just didn't feel like I really had anything. And so this chapter, when I was reflecting back on things that had happened the last couple of weeks, it was really like hit home.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I guess, when I was reading into it more, it was talking about where you have to just find somebody who you can truly trust.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people out here who will say you can talk to them about anything, but then when you start to open up to them, it's like they just immediately are like, oh, nope, I didn't actually mean that. I was just saying that.
Yeah.
And then they just immediately unfriend you or something like that because they just don't they don't really care enough to listen to what's happening in your life. So you just got to find somebody that you can truly trust, to someone who you can just like actually let your problems, like let them out, and just let whatever is holding all your emotions back, just let it fall and spill it out. Just find that person who will really listen to you through everything. That'll really help. Now with the feeling alone and things like that.
Yeah.
No one ever wants to feel alone. It's one of the worst feelings in the world, is feeling like you don't have anybody, you have nothing, you're just by yourself. Just it's on you. Everything is your fault and stuff like that. It's not a good feeling. So that's one of the things why this chapter really stood out to me.
Well, I wish I would have thought it. Maybe somebody can drop it in the chat for me, because this chapter really goes into feeling depressed, feeling suicidal. And I wish I had the suicide hotline number that I could drop into the chat. But if somebody who's watching could drop that number in the chat for me, I think this would be a great place to go ahead and put that. Because, I look at how people say, and even he says here that he cares, and he has a Facebook group, and you can join his Facebook group. If you're watching this and you feel like you're all alone, you can join his Facebook group and you can connect with Robert. You can always connect with me. And I know somebody watching that is probably like, well, she don't have the time to answer her phone. Well, no, because I keep my ringer off because I get a lot of crank and spam calls. But I try to be there for people. Robert's wanting to be there for people, but there's a hotline of people that are ready and waiting to talk you through whatever it is that you're going through. And so I don't see it popping up in the chat. So if y'all will just indulge me for a second, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick search for it, because it's a national suicide hotline. And I thought they were about to get a not a 911, but like a 411 or some kind of number like that. Okay, let's see. They do have it. It's 988.
Also, this one too.
Yeah. Yeah, let me do that. They just released this 988 suicide support hotline. Hold on, where'd my where'd my StreamYard go? Oh, there it is. Let me pop that in here. So you can, for a suicide hotline, you can dial 988. Which I thought was fantastic that they had just released that or created that number. But there's also this one is the old one, which I think is still monitored because 988 is brand new. Okay, I just heard that news, so let me put that on here. Okay, I didn't type that very well, but so we've got 988. If you're feeling like you need someone to talk to, you can call that number. You can text that number, and there will always be somebody there that can help you. And if you want a traditional number, that's the traditional number there for the suicide hotline. 800-273-8255. But there's avenues to get folks to help. You can go to Robert's GOAT group, right? You can go into his group. You can go to my Facebook group. You can reach out to us. You can always, anybody who subscribes to my list, I always have a number that, you can schedule time or you can just reach out. But, if I'm not available, if Robert's not available, if Philip's not available, you can contact the people there. But I remember being a teenager and feeling like nobody cared and nobody had time for me and nobody cared that nobody had time for me. Like even when I went to college, I remember they did this big thing about don't go anywhere alone, because we'd had a young lady who'd been assaulted by 6 folks walking from the parking lot. Our parking lot was like a mile or two away from where our dorms were, and she had been assaulted on the parade field. And rather than help her, people were like, well, she shouldn't have been walking across the parade field, because it was a shortcut. I mean, it was like a 2-mile triangle and she was cutting through, and because people were so upset at what happened to her and how the establishment didn't care to fix the problem, they blamed her instead of the people who did it. A group of girls got together, and one guy, I believe, and created an underground support group, which led to the eventual creation of a hotline to help people who were suffering from assault. But I remember before all of that good stuff came out of this bad situation, once the bad situation happened, they had briefed all of us, don't go walking by yourself. If you need to go walking, grab an upperclassman, go grab somebody to come with you. And I still remember how laughed at I was by the upperclassmen of my squadron when I asked somebody to come walk with me somewhere. And I'll never forget how that felt. And I'll never forget how, when I wanted to have someone to talk to, I remember trying to call my family, and it was the freshman year, so you couldn't call all the time. You got certain windows of time at the Air Force Academy that you could call. And I called, and then I got back in line so I could call again. And when I called again, it was somebody, I forget which member of my family it was, but somebody was like, look, we're trying to watch TV, stop calling us. And I couldn't go to my classmates and I couldn't go to my family. And I just felt like I had nobody. And if you feel like you've got nobody to turn to, I want you to know today that's not the case. You can always turn to these hotline numbers. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to these hotline folks, if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to me or going and joining Robert's group, if you don't feel comfortable with any of the people in your life right now, then you can always reach out to the Lord. And I've never had a situation where I've prayed to the Lord and asked him to comfort me and to help me that he hasn't shown up right on time. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to the last 2 topics. So our 15-minute little quick review has almost become 2 hours. So I'm going to have to definitely make it up to my son. And I'm going to do that by either taking them out somewhere to eat, because it's time for me to break my fast, or maybe I'll do some cold hard cash, which leads right into our next topic, our second to last chapter, which is money management. So, Philip, as we talk about money management, do you have something to say on this one?
Well, I mean, I do have a little something to say on this. Now, I don't think it would be wise of me to go over every single step that's required that's in this, because I want to kind of leave it on a little cliffhanger, make you buy the book, right? But I will tell you 2 of the 5 steps to make sure you have money management. All right.
All right.
Number 1, See, this one should be pretty obvious. Is create a budget.
Whoa! Wait! Say that again.
Number one is create a budget. Money mama right here. But yeah, create a budget. And then I guess that also goes into number two, which is understand your expenses. Because if you can't manage your budget and you don't know all the things that you're paying for, like seriously, there's so many people out here who are just like they get like a ton of money and like I was watching something earlier today. There were like it's like we had exams today, and in my third period and my seventh period, because those are two of the three exams that we were doing, I wasn't doing anything. So my seventh period, I was like, all right, well, I might as well watch some stuff, see what's happened in the last couple year. So, and I watched something that was like called the dumbest lottery ticket winners.
Oh, okay.
And it showed these people and how them winning the lottery completely ruined their life.
Really?
Because they didn't manage their money well. They were too focused on spending all this money. They were too caught up in the moment of having all this wealth, and it just goes, and it was just gone in an instant.
And they never thought it would run out.
They never thought it would run out. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You win $1 million, that can run out like that. It's quick. And I know that you didn't see the snap on screen because I used my left hand instead of my right hand, but I'll just do this right there. I don't know what that was, but I was watching it, and there was this guy there was this 16-year-old girl who won $5 million on just a random lottery ticket. And she told everybody, told the press and all that stuff that she wouldn't change no matter what happened. She wasn't going to try to get all the cars and all that stuff. And yeah, she was completely wrong. She spent $300,000 on clothes. She spent $80,000 on just like body enhancements. She spent over $500,000 in cars. And she did do some good with it. She bought her mom a nice house, and a bunch of other things. But at the end of it, she didn't have she had absolutely nothing. It was gone like that. And the problem is once if you buy all these big things, these super expensive cars, you're gonna have to have enough money to be able to sustain those things.
Yes.
Because the more expensive something you get is, the more it's going to cost to maintain it. So if you get like a $2 million house, $2 million mansion, well, I don't know how much that's exactly going to cost, but I would imagine that's going to cost a lot of money every year to maintain, or every month, how whenever the bills come in. And if you get a car, especially if you get a sports car, if you get like $1 million sports car, well, gas is going to be crazy on that thing. Because I've seen it. Gas prices are crazy whenever it comes to sports cars and stuff like that. And then maintaining it, taking it into shops and stuff like that, it's just a lot of money. And those people, they don't make a budget. They don't manage their expenses. They don't understand, or I guess they do understand it in a way, but they're not smart with it. And they spend all this stuff on unnecessary stuff, like $300,000 in clothes.
I can do that.
I don't understand how that's possible.
Custom made, highest quality, full Italian leather.
Okay, one pair. There you go. There you don't need any more. You don't need any more after one pair. It's not like you're not gonna wear it all the time.
No, but I'm gonna come home and look at it.
But you create a budget, and
Louis Vuitton purse is like $2,000 just off the rack.
Yeah, I mean, if you get
my red bottom shoes are like $1,000.
If you win $1 million, I mean, okay, go buy yourself a Louis Vuitton bag, but make sure you have.
But you need them in all the colors, and you need matching shoes.
This is why. This is why you need to have someone who is well versed in budget money, or in creating a budget to help you create a budget to know what's important, what's essential to have, because you need to set aside some form of money to help it grow, to like help grow your money more. Like if you win $2 million, set aside 500,000 to $1 million to help that grow more, to work on that, and then you got another $1 million to do other things. But you want to set some of that aside to help that grow more.
Yeah. You know what? Let's talk about that for a second, because he doesn't have it in here, but he does talk about of creating a financial legacy. And here's where people misunderstand, because they think, oh, $1 million is just so much money. But you know, if you put $1 million in the stock market, it goes up and down and up and down, but overall the stock market goes up. And so financial planners use a 4% rate of return as a safe average for how much you can pull out every year and never dig into that $1 million. So year after year after year after year. Well, 4% of $1 million is what? $40,000 bucks. It's not a whole lot. It's certainly not a lavish lifestyle. All right. And so this is definitely something to consider, that we think, oh, it's $1 million, I'm rich for life. Well, if you put that whole $1 million in the bank, you can live off of $40,000 and never have to work again. But a lot of us have a little bit more expensive tastes than that. So, and yes, I agree, Elder Frazier. He is a very smart young man. I'm so very proud of him. Well, shall we go to our last principle?
I guess we might as well go to
We might as well go to our last principle. And that last principle is character empowerment. And this is an interesting one. Character empowerment. This is interesting because it really challenges us to look strategically. All right. It challenges us not to just think about the here and now, but how do we want to be remembered? What is our life going to look like long term? What kind of long term impact are we going to have? All right, Philip, take us away.
Well, I know I was reading it and I was like, well, I know not everybody really wants to be remembered. There are just some people who just want to fade out and just don't want to be remembered. Just want to live an average life, not really want to be like super famous and all that. Because I mean, there's a lot of stuff that comes into being famous. But those of you who do want to become famous and do all these big extravagant things, well, I mean, you gotta think, what are the actions? How do I want to say this? What if I do this? What is that gonna do in the future? Because I don't know, let's take this back to the lottery thing. If I win, let's say $200 million in the lottery.
Yeah, win that.
So automatically
that means you'd have to play the lottery. Never mind. Go ahead.
I'm not gonna. I mean, if I get it,
that's a poor tax.
Now, well, I mean, obviously, I'm only gonna get like 50 million off of that 200 million because of taxes these days. But if automatically I'm going to be famous, I'm going to be going on a bunch of talk shows, I'm going to get more fame, that means I'm going to get more money. So now, what do I do with that money? Well, if I go buy a bunch of sports cars, buy a bunch of mansions and stuff like that, and go gambling and stuff like that, well, then I'm just going to be remembered as one of those dumb lottery winners. Now, if I set some of that aside, because I mean, if you win 200 million, you're going to be famous, you're going to be making money because it's automatic fame right there. You're going to be paid to be on talk shows, you're going to be paid for all this other stuff. But I mean, what can you do with that? You can do charity work. Now, I'm not saying give your entire thing away to charity, but what I'm saying is give a little bit to charity, because I mean, that helps. I don't
want you playing the lotto, but if you do and you win, make sure you tithe to your mama's church.
That too. Make sure you do your tithes. But
that's gonna open up a whole nother can of worms, because I know some people who will not accept that money, and I'm like, if it's not blood money,
if you win,
but so you need the money management.
You need the money
and
management.
Then you also need the character empowerment.
You need the character to be able to do with the money, what will help you be remembered in a, I guess, respectable light later on down the line. Because I mean,
and it doesn't have to be big, crazy things.
Yeah, it doesn't
I mean, character empowerment, it's also how we carry ourselves, which then translates into whose lives we're going to impact.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that impact lives and they never end up on TV rich and famous.
Right.
They might be wealthy and walking in abundance, but they may not end up as a movie star or something, but they're changing lives right in their communities. And so we want to be the best example we can be, and we want our character to speak for us, speak volumes for us.
I can say from personal experience, I have helped a certain person out, and it's going on January 15th. She will have officially been 2 years free of cutting, smoking, and all the stuff that she used to do because she was depressed and lots of things were happening in her life. She will be completely free of all of that for 2 years.
Wow.
And every month we just talk about it, like every 15th of every month. We talk about it. This is another month. You're getting there. You're getting to that 2-year point.
Yeah.
And so that will forever, she will always be in my heart. And I know I have made a difference. And it's just, that's part of it.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
It's good. The Lord is using
It's
you.
good to know.
Yes. Well, I think that wraps up our study on Robert's book. Now, I'm going to tell you, our 2-hour study is probably longer than it takes to actually read the book. I mean, there's a lot of juicy. This is one of the things I like about the way that Robert writes. Okay. He's got all these juicy nuggets in here, but he doesn't waste time with a whole lot of extra fluff. Okay. So it's a quick read. I want to encourage you to go out to jjclink.com/cry to get that book, and that is it'll take you to Amazon. It'll take you to the Amazon link, and you can also learn more about Robert at youngmenbecomingmen.org. I want to give a shout out to Robert for all that he's doing to change his community and even the world. Again, you can support him at youngmenbecomingmen.org. And you can find me at buildingwealthtogether.com, and you can find him on Instagram as at WiggyD, or on YouTube as Philly Bob PK. We still have to update that one, but that's okay. All right. Well, do you have anything last things to say?
Buy the book and also get the shirts.
Get the shirts.
Get the
All
shirts.
right. All right.
These shirts are amazing. I love it.
Thank you, everybody, for being here with us today. I think you've made my day, and I think your support has shown him just how good he is at doing these live videos and how great things that he has to say about what he thinks about the things that he reads. It does my heart good as a mom, and I'm super excited y'all here being a part of our journey, and I'm super excited that we get to be a part of your journey. That's all I have for you today. Y'all take care and be blessed.